In my work coaching executive team, we reached a point which actually many leadership teams never get to. They were ready to accept my invitation to acknowledge how difficult they found it to put their espoused values into action on a consistent basis. We spent time naming the gap that they noticed in themselves between what they said and what they did, typically in practice. And here is some of what our conversation revealed. So, what we say? Well, we say we're client focused. And what do? Well, actually, we don't really prioritise asking our clients that often about their experience and getting feedback. Say-do gap. What we say we value the views and opinions of our colleagues. And what do we do typically? We do tend to make a lot of decisions in our management team without bringing in the expertise of our colleagues. Say-do gap. What we say we value innovation and creativity and experimentation and nimble thinking. What do? We tend to reward and celebrate competence, intellect, and being correct. Say-do gap. What we say we want people's ideas and suggestions. And what do? We tend to ask people to make a proposal and then pick holes in it. Say-do gap. We say we want colleagues to take ownership and responsibility. And what do? We get directly involved in far too much of the detail and we actually get in people's way. Say-do gap. We say we're always willing to listen. And what do we tend to do? We tend to listen, but to respond rather than to hear or empathise or understand. Say-do gap. What do? We say we value openness, respect and candour. And what do? Well, when somebody isn't meeting our expectations, we say nothing in the moment and then once they've gone, we complain about them behind their back. Say-do gap. Does any of this sound at all familiar? Even really experienced, effective leaders and teams struggle with this stuff because nobody's perfect or superhuman, and there's no point pretending that we are. With this particular executive team, the work we went on to do took the conversation about the say-do gap that they'd identified from behind those closed doors and opened up a dialogue with their teams so that they could keep noticing and trying to close the say-do gap, asking for other people's help to help them notice it and address it. And this team's willingness to acknowledge, own and openly discuss their dissonance between the walk and the talk is key to their ongoing work in modelling and embedding a healthier, more innovative culture, more honest culture. They're not pretending to be something they're not. They're being open and humble that, they find this really hard, especially when the pressure is on, which is pretty much always. It models humility and a desire and determination to walk the talk more effectively. And it creates a norm for colleagues to do this as well. When I undertake this kind of say-do gap work with leaders and teams and groups at work, sometimes people physically look away. I notice people avoiding eye contact with me or with each other. Sometimes people look shocked or embarrassed, even suggesting that I'm being disrespectful or uncaring by shining a light on a potential disconnect. And yes, I have been called a hypocrite by people who perhaps aren't ready just yet to look inside themselves and hold up that mirror, and who possibly prefer to criticise my apparent dissonance rather than being curious about their own. Because yes, it can be really uncomfortable to acknowledge my own say-do gap. Yet, when I do, and when you do with your colleagues and teams, it transforms the conversation and the climate of trust and the progress we can make together and the results we can achieve. The leaders and teams who look their say-do gap in the eye and have the courage to own it, work on it, they have the best chance of modelling and embedding a culture where their values in words meaningfully translate into practice.